Well, now, Finance Minister Professor Mthuli Ncube yesterday presented the 927.3 billion Zimbabwe dollar 2022 national budget. In studio, I'm joined by, well, to help me rather, look at the post-mortem of the budget. We're joined by economic analyst Dr Abicia Ushewokunze. Doc, thank you so much for taking time to join us.
Thank you. Good
And
morning,
a happy Movember.
Well, those are the results of the COVID era.
Yes, most definitely. Now, looking at the budget, a lot of positions that were put forward, expect or see it to be people-centric. Your sentiments?
Well, frankly speaking, from where we're coming from, given that in a subliminal manner, we had our own recession, which was not pronounced, or rather induced by the COVID pandemic, which came as a shock to the financial sector, to the world itself. But if you look at Zimbabwe's position, given that our trajectories and our focus at the moment sitting at about 5.5% of this is what Zimbabwe is projecting in terms of economic growth. So if you look at the global targets for economic growth, it's about 5.9%. And then if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, we're looking at about 3.7%. This is also induced by the lack of preparedness, and also in terms of the production of the vaccine and how we caught on later. So the pandemic is not something that you can take lightly in terms of economic performance.
It did seem, though, that to some degree a critique of the minister's budget, that he didn't happen to address exactly the government's position of the previous allocations of funds towards alleviating the effects of COVID-19. Yes, there were great future projections that were put forward, but we still have not heard about how government will ensure that all those businesses that went through that standstill during that period can actually be able to be not compensated, but supported financially rather going forward.
Right. That was actually incorporated in the document as well, in terms of resuscitating, or in terms of mitigating as a stopgap measure to mainly on the small to medium scale businesses, which are very much affected, or rather which had no capacity to restore themselves in terms of doing business. So at times we talk about it casually, but there's also measures that you take into account, or there's a procedure that you follow to access that particular funding. It's not wholesome, or it's not wholesale. There's a procedure, there's a channel that we use.
Doc, a key area before we wrap up our discussion that I do want to bring up there, a pause that we seem to be given is that we do have a local currency, and that local currency is here to stay, but more importantly, it's also developing strength. Quick question, am I going to be able to continue buying my fuel in RTGS? Am I going to also be able to pay my rentals in RTGS? And am I also going to be able to ensure that when I do receive my RTGS, I will not be crippled by the parallel market?
Well, the power market, if you also look, he also addressed the power market and the challenges there that also induce inflation as a result of that market. But there is also government focus on restoration of service stations which access certain funding or allocations from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. They access that particular funding at the government gazetted rate. So in actuality, they should also work with the executives on the pricing of the fuel to the end user, who was the average man on the streets. So and then So
I'll definitely accept that answer as yes, but not yet.
Yes, it's a process.
Yes, exactly. Process. So we're eventually working towards the point where we'll be.
If you look at the root cause analysis of where we are today, it's as a result of where we're coming from. We're a country that had been operating as an island without any grants. We lost over $100 billion worth of lack of grants. We've lost $40 billion of an economy as a result of the sanctions, which we are operating alone. So we're more of an island than the international community would want. This is why there's that need for re-engagement, and this is why we're seeing a lot of activity in the trying to restore Zimbabwe's name and restoring Zimbabwe on the world map.
Right. No, Doc, thank you so much for your sentiments. Always appreciate hearing from you. Definitely look forward to speaking to you again more in future.
Thank you.
We're joined there by Dr Abicia Ushewokunze, who is an economic analyst, sharing some very brief insights in the light of the post-mortem of the budget analysis.